What if everything we thought we knew about our ancient ancestors was wrong? Hidden beneath layers of earth and time are relics so puzzling, they defy modern explanation. Objects that shouldn't exist based on what science tells us about early human civilizations. From intricate devices that resemble modern technology to massive stone structures aligned with celestial events with impossible precision, these artifacts whisper secrets we're still struggling to decode. Today, we're diving deep into 30 of the most jaw-dropping prehistoric mysteries ever uncovered, each one a tantalizing piece of a puzzle that could rewrite history as we know it. Picture this: a hammer embedded in rock dated to over 400 million years ago, long before humans walked the earth. Or a complex mechanical device, the Antikythera Mechanism, discovered in a shipwreck but boasting gears and craftsmanship that rival 19th century engineering. How did these things come to exist? Who made them? And what knowledge did they possess that we've since lost? These aren't just curiosities, they're profound challenges to our understanding of human ingenuity, hints that ancient civilizations might have been far more advanced than we ever imagined. Every artifact we'll explore today carries its own aura of mystery, a story waiting to be unraveled. Some were dismissed as hoaxes until closer inspection proved they were real. Others were found in context so bizarre, scientists still debate their purpose centuries after their discovery. What connects them all is the way they make us question the boundaries of history, science, and even time itself. So join us as we travel across millennia, piecing together clues left behind by cultures long gone. By the end, you might just see the past and our place within it in a whole new light. Buried beneath the Mediterranean waves for 2,000 years, the Antikythera Mechanism emerged from a shipwreck in 1901, shattering assumptions about ancient technology. At first glance, it resembled a lump of corroded bronze, but X-rays revealed something astonishing. A labyrinth of interlocking gears, precision cut with teeth so fine they could rival those of a 19th century clock. This wasn't just a tool, it was a mechanical masterpiece, a device capable of predicting celestial events with staggering accuracy. The complexity is mind-bending. Tiny dials tracked the movements of the sun, moon, and possibly even the 5 known planets, while another gear simulated the uneven orbit of the moon, a feature modern astronomers call anomalistic motion. Some researchers believe it could calculate eclipse cycles decades in advance, while others argue it might have been used to set dates for religious festivals or athletic games like the Olympics. But here's what stumps scientists: nothing even remotely this advanced appears again in the historical record for over 1,000 years. So who built it? The leading theory points to the workshop of Archimedes, the legendary Greek inventor whose lost writings hint at mechanical planetariums. Yet even that raises more questions. If this level of engineering existed in the 2nd century BCE, why did the knowledge vanish? Was it a one-of-a-kind marvel, or are there other devices still hidden, waiting to be found? The Antikythera Mechanism doesn't just defy expectations, it forces us to reconsider the entire timeline of human innovation. Every gear, every inscription, whispers that ancient minds may have grasped concepts we thought were centuries beyond their reach. For decades, the Antikythera Mechanism remained an enigma locked in corroded bronze until modern technology finally cracked its secrets. Advanced 3D imaging and high-resolution X-ray tomography peeled back the layers of time, revealing inscriptions and gear functions invisible to the naked eye. What emerged was nothing short of revolutionary, a device so sophisticated it's often called the world's first analog computer. The real breakthrough came when researchers deciphered the tiny Greek letters hidden inside, a manual of sorts etched into the metal. These inscriptions didn't just explain the mechanism's functions, they revealed a cosmic purpose. One dial tracked the 4-year cycle of the ancient Olympic Games, while another predicted eclipses down to the hour, using a sophisticated system of Babylonian astronomy blended with Greek engineering. The precision is staggering. Some gears operate with a margin of error less than 1 degree, a feat that shouldn't have been possible without precision tools we assume didn't exist back then. But perhaps the most haunting question is this: was the Antikythera Mechanism alone? Fragments of similar devices mentioned in Roman texts suggest it might have been one of many, part of a forgotten tradition of high craftsmanship. Some scholars now argue it influenced later Islamic astronomical devices, like the geared astrolabes of the medieval period, hinting that echoes of this technology survived longer than we thought. Then there's the mystery of its creators. While Archimedes is the prime suspect, recent analysis of the handwriting in the inscriptions points to multiple authors, possibly a school of craftsmen working in Rhodes. This wasn't just a lone genius tinkering in a workshop. It was likely the product of an entire intellectual ecosystem, a network of thinkers and makers whose collective knowledge vanished with the decline of the ancient world. What makes the Antikythera Mechanism so unnerving isn't just its complexity. It's the reminder that history isn't a straight line. Breakthroughs can be lost, knowledge can fall into shadows, and civilizations we assume were primitive might have held secrets we're only beginning to rediscover. Every gear turned by modern researchers isn't just decoding an ancient device, it's turning the pages of a story we thought we knew, only to find it's far richer and far stranger than we ever imagined. Buried in the basement of Baghdad's National Museum lies a relic so unassuming, most visitors walk right past it, a small clay jar no taller than your hand, sealed with a plug of asphalt. But inside this ordinary vessel rests something extraordinary, a rolled copper sheet surrounding an iron rod, traces of acidic residue still clinging to the metal after 2,000 years. When archaeologists first pieced it together in the 1930s, they made a staggering realization this wasn't just a storage container, it was a battery. Reconstructions prove the so-called Baghdad Battery could generate around 1 volt of electricity when filled with vinegar or grape juice, enough to produce a mild shock or enable electrochemical reactions. Skeptics argued it might have been merely a scroll case, but the evidence tells a different story. The asphalt seal was intentionally designed to hold the iron rod in perfect isolation from the copper, preventing accidental discharge, an engineering detail that screams purpose. And those acidic traces, they match exactly the electrolytes used in simple batteries today. So what was it powering? One compelling theory suggests electroplating, coating objects with thin layers of gold or silver using electricity. Artifacts from the same era show suspiciously even metallic coatings that defy traditional gilding techniques. Another possibility emerges from ancient medical texts describing how doctors used electric fish to numb patients. Could this primitive battery have served as a portable painkiller, delivering controlled shocks to soothe ailments? The most haunting question isn't how it worked, but why the knowledge behind it disappeared. While Roman and Persian texts mention glowing jars and tingling vessels, no clear successor to this technology emerges for centuries. Like the Antikythera Mechanism, the Baghdad Battery hints at flashes of brilliance lost to time. Pockets of advanced understanding that flickered out before they could ignite a wider revolution. Perhaps the real power of this artifact isn't in the electricity it once held, but in the jolt it gives to our imagination. Every time we dismiss ancient people as primitive, relics like this one shock us awake, reminding us that innovation isn't always a straight march forward. Sometimes it's a spark that burns bright, then vanishes, waiting to be rediscovered. Hidden in the vaults of Yale University's Voynich Library, the Voynich Manuscript is a book that mocks modern understanding. 240 pages of undecipherable script curling beside illustrations of plants that don't exist, nude women bathing in emerald green pools, and celestial charts mapping unknown constellations. Since its discovery in 1912 by antique book dealer Wilfred Voynich, this 15th century artifact has resisted every attempt at translation, becoming the Mount Everest of cryptographic puzzles. The text itself is a maddening tease. Written left to right with elegant, flowing characters, it follows grammatical patterns suggestive of a real language, yet not a single word matches any known tongue. Statistical analysis reveals quirks, like the second letter of each word predicting the third with eerie accuracy, a trait seen in Hebrew and Arabic, but here applied to something utterly alien. Over the centuries, everyone from Renaissance alchemists to World War II codebreakers has tried to crack it. Even the NSA's brightest minds, fresh from decrypting Axis communications, took a swing in the 1950s and walked away baffled. Then there are the illustrations, a parade of surrealism that deepens the mystery. Herbal sections depict flora with bulbous roots and twisted stems, unlike any botanical species on Earth. Astronomical diagrams show spiral formations of stars that don't align with medieval European cosmology. Most unsettling are the so-called biological pages, intricate drawings of tiny, hairless women wading through interconnected tubes of liquid, their bodies oddly segmented like anatomical models from a fever dream. Theories about its origins swing from the plausible to the fantastical. Some scholars insist it's an elaborate hoax, perhaps concocted by Voynich himself, except carbon dating confirms the vellum predates him by 400 years. Others propose it's a lost language, a constructed cipher, or even a glossolalia rambling by someone channeling divine nonsense. The wildest claims point to extraterrestrial authorship, though no evidence supports it beyond the manuscript's sheer strangeness. What makes the Voynich manuscript so captivating isn't just its resistance to decoding, it's the way it reflects our own limitations. For all our technological advances, this handwritten book from 6 centuries ago still holds its secrets tight, a reminder that the past can guard its mysteries fiercely. Every failed attempt to read it isn't just a defeat, it's an invitation to wonder what knowledge might be locked inside, waiting for the right key to turn. High in the remote Bayan Karaula Mountains along the China-Tibet border, a bizarre discovery in 1938 sent shockwaves through archaeology. A series of stone discs, each roughly a foot wide with perfect holes at their centers, stacked like vinyl records in a hidden cave. These were the Dropa Stones, named after the local tribe who claimed descent from star beings who descended from the sky long ago. But what turned these discs from curiosities into a firestorm of controversy were the spiral grooves that, upon closer inspection, revealed thousands of minuscule hieroglyphs, lines thinner than a human hair, describing an otherworldly disaster. When Chinese archaeologist Dr. Kai Pu-Te first documented the stones, he assumed they were simple Neolithic ritual objects, but decades later, Russian linguist Dr. Vyacheslav Sazev claimed the inscriptions told an astonishing story. A spacecraft crashing 12,000 years ago, its alien occupants, the Dropa, stranded on Earth. The glyphs supposedly detailed their failed attempts to repair their ship and their eventual integration with local tribes. Skeptics were quick to dismiss this as pseudoscience, pointing out that no credible photographs of the inscriptions exist and that mainstream scholars have never been allowed to examine the stones firsthand. However, the debate takes a strange turn when you consider the disc's physical properties. Laboratory analysis in the 1960s reportedly showed high cobalt and nickel content, metals common in meteorites, and unusual vibrational frequencies when struck. Even more puzzling are the accounts from local villagers whose oral traditions speak of small, slender ancestors with large heads who communicated through whistling sounds, eerily matching descriptions of the alleged Dropa beings. Yet alternative explanations persist. Some geologists argue the stones could be natural sandstone formations with weathering patterns misread as writing. Others propose they're prayer wheels or ancient astronomical calendars, their spiral grooves tracking celestial cycles, the most damning evidence against the alien theory. A complete lack of verifiable records, no excavation reports, no peer-reviewed translations, just decades of hearsay and sensational headlines. What lingers isn't just the question of the stone's origins, but why this story endures. Perhaps it's the human craving for connection to something greater, or maybe it's the unsettling possibility that history isn't as settled as we think. Whether the Dropa Stones are interstellar messages or misidentified tools, they serve as a mirror, reflecting our endless fascination with the idea that we might not be alone, and that the past might hold secrets far stranger than we dare imagine. Among the treasures of Egypt's Saqqara necropolis, one artifact stands out not for its gold or jewels, but for its uncanny resemblance to a modern aircraft, the Saqqara Bird. Carved from sycamore wood around 2,200 years ago, this delicate object measures just over 6 inches long, with sleek wings that angle back like a glider's and a tail fin that looks engineered for stability. At first glance, it could pass for a child's toy, but a closer inspection reveals features that have fueled decades of debate. Was this a simple ritual object or evidence that ancient Egyptians understood the principles of flight? Aviation experts who have examined replicas point to startling details. The wing's curvature mimics the airfoil shape crucial for generating lift, while the weight distribution aligns with modern glider designs. When scaled up and tested in wind tunnels, some models have shown remarkable aerodynamic properties capable of brief, controlled flights. Skeptics argue it's merely a stylized bird, pointing to the carved head and lack of clear propulsion mechanisms. Yet the tailfin's vertical design, unlike any bird's anatomy, suggests a function beyond ornamentation. Ancient Egyptian art is famously precise in its depictions of nature, making this divergence all the more puzzling. The mystery deepens when you consider the context. Hieroglyphs and tomb paintings show the Egyptians had a fascination with flight, from solar barks soaring through the heavens to intricate kites used in ceremonies. Could the Saqqara bird be a model of something larger, like ceremonial gliders employed in rituals, or perhaps a craftsman's experiment inspired by observing wind patterns across the Nile? One radical theory even ties it to the legend of Osiris, whose dismembered body was said to have been reassembled with wings, symbolizing rebirth. If the bird was a ritual object, its aerodynamic features might have been intentional, a physical representation of divine ascension, engineered to fly metaphorically if not literally. What makes the Saqqara bird so captivating isn't just the question of its purpose, but what it reveals about ancient innovation. Whether it's proof of early flight or a symbolic masterpiece, it challenges our assumptions about the boundaries of ancient knowledge. Every curve of its wings whispers the same tantalizing thought. Perhaps the past was far more inventive than we've dared to believe. Deep in a creek bed near London, Texas, a discovery in 1936 shattered conventional timelines. A hammer with a wooden handle and an iron head, encased in solid rock dated to over 400 million years old. That's right, a tool that by all geological accounts shouldn't exist, buried in stone from an era before dinosaurs, before trees, even before complex life crawled onto land. The so-called London hammer has been a lightning rod for debate ever since, with creationists hailing it as proof of intelligent design and mainstream scientists scrambling to explain how such an anomaly could occur. Let's break down the enigma. The hammer's head is made of iron with unusual purity, lacking the sulfur and other impurities typical of 19th century smelting. The wooden handle, partially turned to coal from extreme age, still shows tool marks from its shaping. But here's what stumps geologists. The rock encasing it is Ordovician sandstone, formed when Earth's oceans teemed with trilobites and nothing resembling human hands existed to forge tools. Creationists argue this is direct evidence that humans coexisted with ancient geological formations, while skeptics propose a more mundane explanation. That mineral-rich water seeped around a relatively recent hammer, cementing it into a concretion that merely resembles ancient rock. Scientific testing adds fuel to the fire. In the 1980s, researchers at the Battelle laboratory analyzed the hammer's metallurgy and found traces of elements like chlorine and potassium in patterns unlike modern steel. Some interpret this as proof of advanced ancient metalworking, while others counter that these anomalies could result from centuries of mineral leaching. Even the wood's carbonization is contested. Does it stem from immense age, or could local geological processes like coal bed methane seepage have accelerated its transformation? The hammer's discoverer, Max Hahn, claimed he found it as a boy, its handle protruding from cracked rock. But without rigorous documentation of the original context, the artifact exists in a limbo of speculation. Mainstream archaeologists dismiss it as a 19th-century tool encased in a geochemical oddity, pointing to similar cases where objects become petrified far quicker than standard timelines suggest. Yet creationists highlight inconsistencies in these explanations, like the lack of rust on the iron despite its alleged exposure to mineral-rich water. What makes the London hammer so compelling isn't just its defiance of timelines, it's the way it exposes the limits of our methods. Geology relies on layers and radiometric dating, but what happens when an object slips through the cracks of those systems? Whether it's a misplaced relic of human history or a quirk of nature, this humble tool challenges us to ask how much we truly know about the past and what other surprises might still lie buried, waiting to rewrite the stories we take for granted. From the skies above Peru's arid Nazca Desert, an astonishing sight unfolds. A sprawling canvas of gigantic geometric shapes, sprawling animals, and intricate patterns etched into the earth, some stretching over 900 feet long. These are the Nazca Lines, a network of over 800 geoglyphs created between 500 BC and 500 CE by carefully removing the dark surface stones to reveal the lighter sand beneath. To stand among them is to feel dwarfed by their scale, but to see them from above is to witness an artistry so precise it defies belief. How did a culture without flight conceive designs only visible from great heights, and what drove them to carve these sprawling masterpieces into the desert floor? One of the most compelling theories ties the lines to celestial events. Researchers like archaeoastronomer Anthony Aveni have noted that many lines align with solstice sunrises or the positions of stars like Orion's belt, suggesting they functioned as a massive astronomical calendar. The famous hummingbird glyph, for instance, points directly to the summer solstice sunrise, while other shapes mirror constellations visible during planting or harvest seasons. These alignments could have guided agricultural cycles or marked sacred dates for rituals, transforming the desert into a kind of sacred observatory where earth and sky were intimately connected. But not all explanations are so grounded. Some speculate the lines served as pathways for ceremonial processions, with pilgrims walking the routes during religious festivals. Traces of pottery and offerings found along certain lines support this idea, hinting at their spiritual significance. Then there's the more controversial theory popularized by Erich von Däniken that the Nazca Lines were landing strips or signals for extraterrestrial visitors. Proponents point to the biomorphic glyphs resembling modern aircraft or the sheer logistical challenge of creating such precise designs without aerial guidance. Yet mainstream scholars dismiss this, noting that simple surveying techniques using stakes and ropes could achieve the same effect, as demonstrated by researchers replicating the lines with period-appropriate tools. Perhaps the most haunting aspect of the Nazca Lines isn't their creation, but their preservation. The desert's windless climate and stable temperatures have kept them intact for millennia, a testament to the ingenuity of their makers. But they also pose a silent challenge to our assumptions about ancient cultures. Were these glyphs mere ritual art, or did they encode knowledge we've yet to decipher? Every new discovery, like the recent unearthing of hidden lines using drone technology, only deepens the mystery, reminding us that some of history's most dazzling achievements were never meant to be seen from the ground. Found tucked away in Istanbul's Topkapi Palace in 1929, the Piri Reis Map doesn't just depict the known world of 1513. It shows a coastline that shouldn't have been visible for another 300 years. Drawn on gazelle hide by Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, this fragmentary chart includes the western coasts of Africa and South America with startling accuracy. But the real bombshell lies at the bottom, the northern shores of Antarctica, rendered with eerie precision and completely free of ice. This detail is impossible on two fronts. First, Antarctica's icy blanket has smothered its landforms for at least 6,000 years. Second, the continent wasn't officially discovered until 1820. So how could a 16th century map show terrain that modern sonar mapping only confirmed in the 20th century? Reis himself provides a clue in marginal notes, claiming he synthesized 20 older source maps, some dating back to the 4th century BC, including those used by Alexander the Great's librarians. Among these, he references a now-lost map from the time of Ptolemy that depicted the southern lands, not yet covered by ice. Mainstream scholars argue this could reflect ancient Greek theories about a southern landmass balancing Earth's continents, later misinterpreted. Others propose that Bronze Age seafarers like the Phoenicians, known to have sailed far beyond the Mediterranean, might have inherited even older knowledge from Ice Age civilizations. The most controversial theory, that an advanced global maritime culture, now forgotten, charted the planet millennia before recorded history, leaving fragments of their knowledge scattered across libraries like Alexandria's, which Reis might have accessed through Arab scholars. The precision fuels debate. The map places the Andes Mountains correctly and even hints at the Amazon's bifurcated river system, details Europeans wouldn't document for centuries. Yet it also contains glaring errors, like South America curling eastward, perhaps a copying mistake from older sources. Skeptics insist these accuracies are coincidental, a lucky blend of sailor lore and speculative geography. But here's what chills historians. The map's depiction of Antarctica's Queen Maud Land matches subglacial topography revealed by seismic surveys in the 1950s. The contour lines align with modern radar scans of the bedrock beneath miles of ice. Could this be evidence of pre-glacial cartography preserved through centuries of copying? Or does it point to something even more profound, a lost epoch when humanity, or something before it, walked an ice-free Antarctica and left its knowledge in fragments that still whisper to us today? The Piri Reis Map doesn't just challenge our timeline of exploration. It taunts us with the possibility that history's greatest discoveries might not be ahead of us, but behind, buried in libraries, sunken in shipwrecks, or hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right eyes to see what was always there. Housed in the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Turin, Italy, the Shroud of Turin is a 14-foot-long linen cloth that bears the ghostly imprint of a crucified man front and back, as if the fabric once wrapped a body that left its mark behind. Bloodstains mingle with the faint sepia tones of the image, showing wounds consistent with Roman crucifixion, a pierced side, nail marks in the wrists, and lacerations matching a crown of thorns. To millions of believers, this is the burial shroud of Jesus Christ, a divine relic imprinted during the resurrection. To scientists, it's one of history's most hotly debated puzzles, a canvas of contradictions that refuses to yield easy answers. The controversy exploded in 1988 when radiocarbon dating by 3 independent labs placed the shroud's origins between 1260 and 1390 CE. Medieval Europe, not 1st century Jerusalem. Skeptics declared the case closed, a clever forgery from the Middle Ages, perhaps created to attract pilgrims. But the story didn't end there. Critics of the carbon dating pointed to potential contamination, decades of handling, exposure to fire and smoke. The shroud survived a chapel fire in 1532, and even bacterial growth that could skew results. Some researchers argue that tested samples came from a rewoven section rather than the original fabric, a claim bolstered by textile experts who note the shroud's unique herringbone weave matches first-century Palestinian techniques, not medieval European ones. Then there's the image itself. No one has replicated how it formed. The coloration isn't paint, dye, or scorch marks, but a superficial oxidation of the linen's topmost fibers, as if produced by a brief burst of energy. Forensic pathologists confirm the bloodstains are real human blood, type AB, with traces of bilirubin consistent with severe trauma. The image's three-dimensional properties, discovered in the 1970s when NASA scientists analyzed it with VP8 image enhancement, suggest it wasn't painted but somehow projected onto the cloth, a phenomenon without clear explanation. Even the positioning of the body defies medieval art conventions. The hands are nailed at the wrists, a historically accurate method unknown to medieval painters who typically depicted crucifixion with palms pierced. Believers find further proof in pollen grains embedded in the fabric, some from plants native to Jerusalem, others extinct for millennia. The faintest of inscriptions, visible only under ultraviolet light and debated for decades, appear to include the words Jesus of Nazareth in Greek, Latin, and Aramaic, though critics dismiss these as later additions. The shroud's most haunting detail, the man's eyes. In 1978, researchers found coin-like objects placed over them, a Jewish burial custom. One specialist identified a rare Pontius Pilate-era lepton coin minted in 29 CE, its barely visible design matching the Chi abbreviation for Emperor Tiberius. Science and faith collide in the shroud's mysteries. If a medieval forger created it, how did they possess such precise anatomical, historical, and technical knowledge centuries ahead of their time? If genuine, why does the carbon dating disagree? The shroud refuses to fit neatly into either category, leaving room for awe and doubt in equal measure. It's a relic that doesn't just challenge our methods of investigation, it challenges our very definitions of proof, inviting us to stand at the edge of what we know and peer into the unknown. In 1961, a discovery in California's Coso Mountains sent shockwaves through both archaeological and conspiracy circles. A stone-encrusted object that, when split open, revealed what looked eerily like a 20th-century spark plug. Dubbed the Coso artifact, this peculiar find was encased in a hardened geode estimated to be over 500,000 years old, a time when humans were barely mastering fire, let alone internal combustion engines. The implications were staggering. Was this proof of lost ancient technology, or just a bizarre geological fluke? The artifact's structure only deepens the mystery. At its core lies a porcelain cylinder surrounding a magnetic metal rod, all encased in a copper shell. Components that mirror the design of early 1900s spark plugs. X-rays confirmed the intricate internal layers, eliminating the possibility of a simple coincidental rock formation. Proponents of ancient advanced civilizations point to the geode's age, arguing no known human culture could have created such an object 500,000 years ago. Some even speculated could be debris from a time-traveling vehicle or extraterrestrial machinery, left behind and fossilized over millennia. Skeptics, however, offer a more grounded explanation. Geological processes can sometimes create nodules that resemble man-made objects, and the Coso Mountains are rich in iron and mineral deposits known to form concretions, hardened masses where minerals cement around a central object. The most plausible theory, a 1920s-era champion spark plug, perhaps lost by a prospector or miner, became encased in mineral-rich mud that hardened over decades, not millennia. While geodes typically take vast timescales to form, certain conditions like silica-saturated groundwater can accelerate the process, creating rock-like coatings in mere years. Yet this theory has its holes. The artifact's discoverers Wallace Lane, Virginia Maxey, and Mike Mikesell insisted they found it deep within a solid layer of bedrock, not near surface-level mining debris. Additionally, the porcelain insulator's composition doesn't perfectly match known 20th century spark plugs, leaving room for doubt. Even more puzzling is the magnetic rod's alloy, which some metallurgists claim doesn't align with standard early industrial materials. What makes the Koso artifact so captivating isn't just the question of its origin, it's the way it blurs the line between natural wonder and human ingenuity. Whether it's a misdated relic of modern industry or a genuine prehistoric anomaly, it forces us to confront the limits of our understanding. In a world where geology and archaeology often draw clear boundaries, objects like this whisper of exceptions, of moments when the rules we take for granted might just bend or break entirely. Tucked away in the dirt of a Native American settlement in Maine, a tiny silver coin no bigger than a fingernail appended conventional narratives of transatlantic contact. Known as the Maine penny, this artifact, identified as a Norse coin minted between 1065 and 1080 CE, was unearthed in 1957 at the Goddard site, a prehistoric trade hub of the Penobscot people. At first glance, it could be mistaken for a stray European coin dropped by later settlers, but the dating tells a different story. This piece of currency predates Columbus by nearly 500 years. How did a Viking relic end up buried in coastal North America, over 1,000 miles south of the only confirmed Norse settlement at Elance Orks Meadows? The coin's authenticity is beyond dispute. Metallurgical analysis confirms it's genuine Norse silver, struck during King Olafkir's reign in Norway. Its design, a cross on one side, a stylized triquetra on the other, matches coins found in Scandinavian hoards, but the context is what baffles archaeologists. The Goddard site was a bustling Native American trading center where shells, tools, and other goods changed hands across vast networks. The Maine penny wasn't found alone. It lay among thousands of indigenous artifacts, suggesting it circulated as trade goods long before Europeans officially discovered the continent. One theory posits that the coin traveled south through indigenous trade routes after being acquired from Norse explorers in Newfoundland. The Penobscot people were part of the Wabanaki Confederacy, whose trade networks stretched from the Arctic to the Gulf of Mexico. A single coin could have passed through countless hands over centuries, its origins forgotten but its value intact. Another possibility is more direct, that Vikings ventured further south than Elance Orks Meadows, perhaps establishing fleeting contact with coastal tribes. Sagas mention expeditions to a place called Vinland, described as rich in wild grapes, a detail that aligns with regions like New England, far beyond the barren coasts of Newfoundland. Skeptics argue the Maine penny is an outlier, perhaps lost by a 20th century collector or planted as a hoax, but the excavation's meticulous documentation rules out modern contamination. Archaeologist Dr. Bruce Burke, who re-examined the site in the 1970s, found no evidence of disturbance in the soil layers where the coin was discovered. Even more telling, the coin shows where patterns consistent with prolonged handling, as if it spent generations being traded before finally being buried. What makes this humble silver disc so revolutionary isn't just its existence, it's the implications. If Norse goods reached Maine, either through trade or exploration, it suggests a level of interaction between Vikings and Native Americans that history has largely ignored. The Maine penny doesn't rewrite the story of transatlantic contact alone, but it cracks open a door, hinting at connections we're only beginning to trace. Every time this coin changes hands in a museum display, it carries a silent challenge. Perhaps the past was far more interconnected than our textbooks ever let us believe. Buried in a dusty Peruvian museum, the Ica stones present a paradox that has divided researchers for decades. Thousands of carved river rocks depicting scenes that shatter conventional history. Men using telescopes, complex surgeries, and most controversially, humans coexisting with dinosaurs. The sheer audacity of these images sparked immediate accusations of forgery when they surfaced in the 1960s. Yet a stubborn minority of artifacts defy easy dismissal. What makes this collection so polarizing isn't just the outlandish subject matter, but the frustrating blend of confirmed hoaxes and lingering anomalies that refuse to be ignored. The story begins with farmer Basilio Ashuya, who sold these stones to Dr. Javier Cabrera, a local physician fascinated by their bizarre iconography. When pressed, Ashuya admitted to carving many himself using dental tools, a revelation that seemed to close the case. Yet inconsistencies emerged under scrutiny. Some stones were found in undisturbed pre-Columbian tombs, their surfaces bearing the same mineral patina as verified Inca artifacts. A handful even contained fossilized algae within their engravings, suggesting the carvings predated modern tampering. The most puzzling examples display anatomical precision that's hard to reconcile with a simple hoax. One stone shows a human figure mid-surgery, with accurate depictions of organ transplants and cesarean sections, procedures far beyond 16th century Andean knowledge. Another depicts a stegosaurus with spine plates positioned correctly, a detail paleontologists only confirmed in the late 20th century. Skeptics argue these could be lucky guesses or copied from modern textbooks, but the stone's proponents counter that some predate the relevant scientific discoveries. Geological analysis adds another layer of intrigue. While many stones are confirmed andesite, a soft rock easily carved, others are made of much harder granite, requiring tools that shouldn't have been available to Ashuya or his contemporaries. Then there's the matter of quantity. Over 50,000 stones have surfaced, varying wildly in artistic skill and subject matter. Could one farmer really have produced such a vast, inconsistent collection while maintaining enough secrecy to avoid exposing the scam? Perhaps the most compelling argument against blanket dismissal comes from indigenous oral traditions. Quechua legends speak of Ilapa stones, sacred tablets recording ancient wisdom, while nearby Nazca culture artifacts feature similar dinosaur-like creatures. Could the Ica stones be corrupted fragments of a misunderstood tradition, later exploited for profit? What lingers isn't proof of prehistoric hospitals or human-dinosaur harmony, but a humbling reminder of how easily genuine mysteries get overshadowed by overzealous fraudsters. Even if 99% of the stones are fakes, that remaining 1% still whispers. There are stories buried in these rocks we haven't fully deciphered yet. Deep within the temple complex of Dendera, 50 miles north of Luxor, lies a relief carving that has electrified debates about ancient technology. Etched into the stone walls of the crypt are bulb-shaped objects with twisting filaments inside, strikingly similar to modern electric light bulbs. Each bulb rests on a pillar-like base, connected by cables to what appears to be an energy source, all held by a priest-like figure. To some, this is undeniable proof of advanced electrical knowledge in ancient Egypt, technology lost to time. To others, it's a classic case of seeing modern inventions where none exist, projecting our world onto the symbolic language of an ancient culture. The so-called Dendera light has sparked arguments since its discovery in the mid-19th century. Proponents of the technological interpretation point to the precision of the imagery, the bulb's glass enclosure, the snaking filament, and the cable leading to a box resembling a battery. They highlight experiments by engineer Walter Gahn, who recreated the design using ancient Egyptian materials, producing a faint glow when filled with argon gas. Even more compelling are the temple's underground chambers, where soot-free ceilings suggest illumination beyond torches or mirrors, which would have left burn marks or required impossible reflective precision. But mainstream Egyptologists offer a radically different reading. The bulbs, they argue, are symbolic representations of the lotus flower, a central motif in Egyptian mythology. The twisting filament mirrors the serpent emerging from the lotus, an image tied to the creation myth where the sun god rises from primordial waters. The cable becomes the stem connecting the flower to its life force, while the supporting pillar represents the jed, a symbol of stability. In this view, the entire scene depicts the daily rebirth of the sun, not a technical diagram. The controversy hinges on cultural context. Ancient Egyptian art rarely depicted technology literally. Even chariots were shown symbolically rather than mechanically. But counterarguments note that the Dendera crypt was a sealed, sacred space, perhaps a repository for guarded knowledge. Could the priests have encoded practical secrets within religious imagery? The temple itself was a center of healing, with inscriptions describing medical procedures that required precise illumination. What makes the Dendera relief so captivating isn't just the clash of interpretations, it's the way it challenges our assumptions about innovation. If it's purely symbolic, why does it mirror electrical components so precisely? If it's literal, why no other evidence of widespread electrical use? The carving stands as a Rorschach test for how we view the past, a world of metaphor, or one where brilliance flickered briefly, then vanished into the shadows of history. Rising abruptly from a rural Georgia field, the Georgia Guidestones stand as one of the most enigmatic monuments of the 20th century. A 10-foot-tall slab of granite etched with 10 instructions for humanity, written in 8 modern languages and 4 ancient scripts. Erected in 1980 under mysterious circumstances, this granite structure has been called America's Stonehenge, its messages simultaneously practical and apocalyptic. The stone's origins only deepen the intrigue, commissioned by a man using the pseudonym R.C. Christian, who claimed to represent a small group of loyal Americans. The monument's true purpose remains hotly debated. Is it a blueprint for post-apocalyptic survival, a new age creed, or something far more unsettling? The Guidestone's first commandment sets the tone: maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Other directives call for guiding reproduction wisely, unifying humanity under a new language, and balancing personal rights with social duties. To some, these read like pragmatic ideals for sustainable living. To others, they echo dystopian population control, fueling conspiracy theories about elite shadow governments. The stone's alignment with celestial events adds another layer. Their central pillar features a hole drilled to frame the North Star, while slots mark the sun's solstices and equinoxes, suggesting an astronomical function beyond mere symbolism. Speculation about R.C. Christian's identity ranges from Rosicrucian mystics to Cold War-era futurists. Some point to the monument's resemblance to Francis Bacon's New Atlantis, a utopian vision where science and spirituality merge. Others note eerie parallels to the Georgia-based anti-utopian novel, The Unincorporated Man, which imagines a society where individuals are legally bound as corporate shares. The stone's emphasis on population control mirrors 20th century eugenics movements, yet their ecological warnings now seem eerily prescient in an age of climate crisis. The monument's physical design fuels further theories. A capstone bears inscriptions in Babylonian cuneiform, Classical Greek, Sanskrit, and Egyptian hieroglyphs, languages tied to esoteric traditions. Below it, a tablet buried in the ground lists the Guidestone's sponsors, but only in code. Some interpret this as an invitation, a puzzle meant to be decoded by future generations after a cataclysm. Others see it as evidence of a secret society's handiwork, a marker for initiates. Controversy reached a fever pitch when the Guidestones were vandalized in 2022, then demolished by authorities citing safety concerns. But the mystery didn't die with the structure. Fragments of the stones were reportedly stolen, while online archives of their inscriptions surged in popularity. Whether you view them as a warning, a prophecy, or an elaborate hoax, the Georgia Guidestones force a haunting question. Were they meant to guide us toward utopia, or document the failures of a civilization that refused to listen? Their absence now speaks as loudly as their words once did, a ghostly reminder that some messages are carved not just in stone, but in the echoes they leave behind. Buried 20 feet deep in the banks of Romania's Mureș River, The Ayod artifact is a small, wedge-shaped object that shouldn't exist not where it was found, and certainly not when it was made. Discovered in 1974 alongside mastodon bones in a layer of sediment dated to around 20,000 years ago, this metallic piece immediately sparked controversy. Composed of 89% aluminum mixed with traces of copper, zinc, and lead, its composition matches modern alloys used in aerospace engineering. But here's the catch: aluminum doesn't occur naturally in pure form, and humans only perfected the electrolytic process to extract it in the 1820s. So how did a 20th century metal end up encased in Ice Age deposits? Initial tests by Romanian labs confirmed the artifact's unusual makeup, while a later analysis in Switzerland at the Lausanne Federal Polytechnic corroborated the findings. The wedge bears clear signs of mechanical wear, with grooves and striations suggesting it was once part of a larger, possibly moving mechanism. Skeptics argue it's a fragment of a World War II-era excavator bucket or aircraft landing gear, somehow driven deep into ancient strata by geological shifts. Yet the excavation team insists the surrounding sediment showed no signs of disturbance, and mastodon bones don't typically share burial grounds with industrial machinery. The debate takes a stranger turn when you examine the object's design. Unlike modern aluminum tools, which are typically cast or stamped, the Ayod wedge appears to have been hand-forged, an impractical method for such a soft metal. Some researchers point to its resemblance to the head of a digging tool, perhaps used by an unknown prehistoric culture with access to technology we've yet to uncover. Others float the possibility of it being debris from a crashed UFO, though no verifiable evidence supports this claim. Historical context adds another wrinkle. While mainstream archaeology insists aluminum production was impossible before the 19th century, there are tantalizing outliers. The tomb of Chinese General Zhu Chu, dating to the 3rd century CE, contained decorative aluminum belt fasteners, long dismissed as contamination until metallurgists confirmed their authenticity. Could the Ayod artifact be another glimpse of a lost metallurgical tradition, one that flickered out before it could spread? What makes this unassuming wedge so compelling isn't just its defiance of chronology, it's the way it exposes how little we truly know about humanity's technological journey. Whether it's a misplaced piece of machinery or a relic of forgotten ingenuity, the Ayod artifact forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. History isn't always a straight line, and sometimes the past holds secrets that refuse to fit neatly into the stories we tell ourselves. In the quiet town of Kensington, Minnesota, a farmer named Olof Oman made a discovery in 1898 that would ignite a century of fierce debate: a 200-pound slab of Greywacke sandstone etched with runic symbols. The Kensington runestone, as it came to be known, bears an inscription that tells a harrowing tale. A group of Norse explorers stranded far inland, detailing a bloody skirmish with Native Americans and a desperate prayer for rescue. If genuine, this artifact would rewrite history, placing Scandinavian travelers deep in North America nearly 150 years before Columbus. But is it a medieval relic or an elaborate 19th century forgery? The answer lies tangled in linguistics, geology, and the motives of the men who brought it to light. Linguists first clashed over the runes. The inscription mixes medieval Swedish with archaic Danish influences, a combination some scholars argue matches 14th century dialects precisely when Norse expeditions might have ventured beyond their Greenland settlements. The phrase Avum, interpreted as Ave Maria, aligns with Catholic prayer practices common among Scandinavian explorers of that era. Yet skeptics highlight oddities like the use of the word Opdagelsefod, voyage of discovery, a term that didn't enter Nordic languages until the 19th century. Even the runes themselves raise eyebrows. Some appear closer to those in a popular runic manual circulating among Scandinavian immigrants in Oman's time than to authenticated Viking Age carvings. Geological evidence adds another layer of intrigue. patina, the natural weathering on the stone's surface, suggests the carvings could be centuries old, with mineral deposits filling the grooves in patterns consistent with long-term exposure. But critics counter that the grooves show tool marks matching 19th century chisels, not ancient implements. Then there's the curious case of the tree. Oman claimed he found the stone wrapped in the roots of an aspen stump, its growth rings implying the stone lay buried for at least 40 years. Yet soil analysis near the discovery site shows disturbances that could indicate the stone was planted deliberately, its burial staged to appear ancient. The human element deepens the mystery. Oman, a Swedish immigrant, was literate in runes and had ties to a local scholar obsessed with proving Norse presence in America. Was this a patriotic hoax, an attempt to claim Scandinavian primacy in the New World's exploration? Or did Oman, perhaps unwittingly, uncover genuine evidence of a forgotten expedition? The stone's defenders point to the sheer complexity of the forgery. Why would a simple farmer concoct a linguistically nuanced text full of subtle historical references? Recent technology has only fueled the debate. 3D imaging reveals microfractures in the runes consistent with centuries of freeze-thaw cycles, while isotopic analysis of the stone's surface suggests weathering patterns older than the 19th century. Yet these findings remain contested, with opponents arguing natural processes could mimic aging under the right conditions. What makes the Kensington runestone so compelling isn't just the question of its authenticity, it's the way it mirrors our desire to connect with the past. Whether it's a medieval distress call or a clever ruse, this weathered slab forces us to confront how easily history can be shaped by hope, pride, and the stories we yearn to believe. Every chip in its surface, every disputed rune, whispers the same tantalizing possibility that the threads of human exploration might be far more tangled than we've been taught. Deep in the mines of South Africa's Precambrian pyrophyllite deposits, miners have unearthed objects that defy easy classification: small metallic spheres, some no larger than a tennis ball, etched with 3 parallel grooves running perfectly around their equators. These grooved spheres, often called the Klerksdorp spheres after the museum that houses several specimens, have sparked fierce debate. Are they naturally occurring mineral curiosities, or could they be evidence of a long-lost civilization with technology advanced enough to craft precision metal objects over 2.8 billion years ago? The sphere's composition only deepens the mystery. Made of hematite or wollastonite with traces of nickel and vanadium, they exhibit a metallic luster and uncanny symmetry that feels anything but random. Some display a fibrous structure inside, while others have a hollow core filled with a strange, spongy material. The grooves themselves are the most puzzling feature, straight, evenly spaced, and machined with a precision that seems impossible for natural weathering or geological processes. Mainstream geologists argue these are the result of concretion, a process where minerals accumulate around a central nucleus, often creating spherical shapes. They point to similar formations found worldwide, like the Moqui marbles of Utah, as evidence that nature can produce near-perfect spheres under the right conditions. The grooves, they suggest, could be the result of softer sedimentary layers eroding at different rates, leaving behind raised ridges, but skeptics of this explanation highlight details that don't fit. The sphere's grooves often align too precisely to dismiss as random erosion, with edges sharp enough to suggest deliberate machining. Some specimens even show signs of being threaded, as if designed to screw into something. Then there's the matter of their age. The pyrophyllite deposits where they're found date back to a time when Earth's atmosphere was toxic, and life, if it existed at all, was limited to single-celled organisms. The idea that anything resembling a tool or artifact could originate from this era challenges everything we know about the timeline of intelligent life. Alternative theories range from the speculative to the sensational. Could these spheres be remnants of an ancient, non-human industrial civilization, one that rose and fell long before humans walked the Earth. Some researchers cautiously float the idea of extraterrestrial influence, suggesting the spheres might be components of alien technology left behind during a visit. Others propose they're artifacts from a hypothetical advanced human civilization that existed tens of thousands of years ago, only to be wiped out by a cataclysm, leaving behind scattered remnants like these. Yet the most compelling argument against manufactured origins comes from materials science. Recent studies show that certain mineral formations can self-organize under extreme heat and pressure, creating patterns that mimic artificial machining. Laboratory experiments have replicated similar grooved structures in controlled conditions, proving that nature can, under rare circumstances, produce near-perfect geometric shapes without intelligent intervention. What makes the Klerksdorp spheres so fascinating isn't just the question of their origin, it's what they reveal about our own biases. When faced with something that looks designed, our minds instinctively search for a designer. But the natural world is full of phenomena that defy intuition, from the hexagonal symmetry of snowflakes to the fractal perfection of fern fronds. These spheres force us to confront the line between the improbable and the impossible, reminding us that the Earth's history is far stranger and far less settled than we often assume. Whether they're geological oddities or forgotten relics, they challenge us to keep questioning, keep exploring, and stay open to the possibility that the past still holds surprises we've yet to uncover. Hidden beneath the rolling hills of China's Zhejiang province, the Longyu Caves stretch across a labyrinth of 24 colossal hand-carved chambers, each one a testament to engineering prowess that defies explanation. Discovered in 1992 when a curious farmer drained a local pond, these vast subterranean spaces reveal walls smoothed to a near-mirror finish, pillars strategically placed to support ceilings, and intricate rock carvings depicting animals and patterns lost to time. The scale is staggering. Some chambers stretch over 100 feet high, with floors covering thousands of square feet, all hewn from solid sandstone, one chisel strike at a time. Yet not a single tool, inscription, or historical record mentions their creation. Who built them, and why would such a monumental effort vanish from history? The precision is what stuns engineers most. Angles between walls and floors deviate by less than 1 degree across entire chambers, a feat requiring advanced measuring techniques thought impossible over 2,000 years ago when experts estimate the caves were carved. The walls bear uniform tool marks, suggesting teams worked with methodical coordination, yet no debris was found inside or nearby. Calculations suggest removing the estimated 1 million cubic meters of rock would have required 1,000 workers laboring around the clock for 6 years, yet no nearby settlements show evidence of such a massive workforce. One theory ties the caves to Emperor Qin Shi Huang, who unified China and obsessed with monumental projects like the Terracotta Army. Could these caves be an unfinished necropolis abandoned after his death? Others point to the local legend of the Dragon's Grotto, a mythical underworld carved by gods, but the most perplexing clue lies in the acoustics. Certain chambers amplify sound unnaturally, with echoes lingering like whispers in a cathedral, a feature some speculate was intentional, perhaps for rituals or communication. Mainstream archaeologists propose they were quarry sites, but the absence of tool marks matching known ancient methods casts doubt. Modern laser scans reveal surfaces smoother than hand tools could achieve, fueling fringe theories about lost technology or even sonic carving techniques hinted at in obscure Taoist texts. The cave's structural integrity adds another layer of intrigue. Despite millennia of earthquakes, not a single pillar has collapsed. What haunts researchers isn't just the mystery of construction, it's the silence. No dynasty claimed this achievement, no poems or scrolls celebrate it. The Longyu Caves stand as a ghost of ambition, their purpose buried with their makers. Every chisel stroke still visible on those walls isn't just a mark of labor. It's a challenge, daring us to question what else history might have erased. Scattered across Costa Rica's Diquis Delta, the stone spheres stand as one of archaeology's most mesmerizing puzzles. Hundreds of near-perfectly round megaliths, some as small as a basketball, others towering over 8 feet tall and weighing 16 tons. Carved with impossible precision from gabbro, limestone, and even volcanic rock, these spheres are so flawless that modern engineers struggle to explain how an ancient culture, without metal tools or written language, achieved such geometric perfection. Unearthed in the 1930s as banana plantations expanded, they've since fueled debates about their purpose, their creators, and perhaps most baffling of all, how they were moved across miles of dense jungle without leaving a trace of their method. The most striking feature isn't just their roundness but their consistency. Laser measurements reveal deviations of less than 2 millimeters across entire surfaces, a level of accuracy rivaling industrial milling machines. Many spheres cluster in alignments, rows, triangles, or arcs, hinting at possible astronomical significance. Researchers like Dr. Francisco Corrales of Costa Rica's National Museum note that certain groupings mirror constellations visible during solstices, suggesting they might have functioned as a massive celestial calendar. Others propose ceremonial roles, pointing to spheres found near burial sites or arranged in patterns resembling sacred geometries from Mesoamerican cultures like the Maya, who traded with Costa Rica's pre-Columbian Diquis people. Yet the transportation mystery looms largest. How did a society without wheels or pack animals move these massive stones from quarries to their final positions, often miles away? Indigenous oral traditions speak of a magic potion that softened rock, while fringe theorists float ideas about anti-gravity technology. More grounded hypotheses suggest log rollers and ramp systems, though no evidence of such infrastructure survives. Experiments with replicas show even modest spheres require hundreds of laborers and weeks of effort to shift short distances, a logistical nightmare in swampy terrain. Then there's the enigma of their sudden abandonment. When Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 16th century, the spheres were already ancient, their makers vanished. No legends or records mention their construction, leaving modern archaeologists to piece together clues from scattered pottery shards and tool fragments. The stones themselves offer silent testimony. Some bear cryptic petroglyphs, spirals, zigzags, or human faces etched by hands we'll never know. What lingers isn't just the question of how or why, but the unsettling realization that an entire system of knowledge, mathematical, astronomical, or spiritual, could vanish so completely. The stone spheres don't just challenge our understanding of pre-Columbian engineering. They whisper of a world where mastery and mystery walked hand in hand, leaving behind only these polished enigmas for us to ponder. Perched high above the city of Cusco, the walls of Sacsayhuaman stand as an architectural enigma that has baffled engineers for centuries. Massive limestone blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, fitted together so tightly you can't slip a sheet of paper between them. The precision is otherworldly, zigzagging walls with interlocking stones carved into complex polygonal shapes, each one custom fit to its neighbors like pieces of an impossible jigsaw puzzle. How did the Inca, without mortar, wheels, or even a written language, achieve such flawless masonry? The answer might lie in techniques so advanced they border on legend. One persistent theory suggests the Inca possessed a method for softening stone, perhaps using a plant-based solvent mentioned in colonial-era chronicles. Spanish accounts describe jars of mysterious liquid that made rock malleable as clay, allowing workers to mold blocks before they hardened again. Modern experiments with acidic compounds found in local plants like jocha have shown they can indeed dissolve limestone slightly, but replicating Sacsayhuaman's precision with such methods remains elusive. Another clue comes from the stones themselves. Their surfaces bear peculiar dimples and grooves, as if they were shaped by tools that pressed rather than chiseled, fueling speculation about lost tools or even sonic technologies hinted at in Andean oral traditions. Then there's the sheer logistics. Quarries for these stones lie miles away across rugged terrain. Without draft animals or wheels, transporting them would have required ingenious solutions, possibly wooden sledges, ramps, or even a system of ropes and pivots still used by some indigenous communities today. But the real marvel lies in the assembly. The wall's zigzag patterns aren't just artistic, they're seismic genius. When earthquakes strike, the interlocking stones shift slightly before settling back into place, a feature that's kept these walls standing for over 6 centuries while Spanish colonial buildings around them crumbled. Mainstream archaeology credits the Inca with masterful dry stone techniques honed over generations, yet even they admit Sacsayhuaman's precision surpasses other Inca sites. Some researchers propose an even older origin, pointing to megalithic traditions predating the Inca by millennia. Local myths speak of the Viracochas, a race of tall, bearded builders who shaped stone with the ease of kneading bread. What lingers isn't just awe for the craftsmanship, it's the haunting question of what knowledge might have been lost. Every seamless joint in Sacsayhuaman's walls whispers of a time when engineering and artistry weren't just sciences but sacred acts, blending the practical and the spiritual in ways we're still struggling to comprehend. These stones don't just defy erosion, they defy our assumptions about what ancient cultures were truly capable of. Hidden in the coal mines of Wolfsegg, Austria in 1885, workers split open a seam of tertiary-era coal and found something that shouldn't have been there, a small metallic cube, its edges unnaturally sharp, its surface etched with a deep groove running perfectly around its center. The so-called Wolfsegg iron, roughly 2 inches across and weighing just over a pound, immediately sparked controversy. Here was an object of deliberate shape and apparent purpose, encased in coal deposits over 20 million years old, long before humans supposedly mastered metalworking. Was this a freak geological formation, a meteorite fragment, or evidence of a forgotten chapter in technological history? Initial tests only deepened the mystery. The cube's composition, pure iron with traces of nickel and sulfur, matched known meteoric iron, lending credence to theories it was a celestial oddity shaped by atmospheric entry. Yet the groove along its midline suggested intentional modification, a feature rarely seen in natural meteorites. When Viennese geologist Dr. Adolf Gerlt examined it, he noted the metal lacked the crystalline Widmanstetten patterns typical of meteorites, raising doubts about its extraterrestrial origin. Later analyses in the 1960s revealed even stranger details: microscopic bubbles trapped in the metal, resembling gas pockets found in human-made iron casts, and tool marks along the groove inconsistent with natural weathering. The most heated debates center on the cube's context. Coal forms over millions of years under immense pressure, making contamination nearly impossible once a seam solidifies. If the Wolfsegg iron was placed there naturally, how did it avoid oxidizing or deforming over epochs? If it was human-made, what civilization could have existed during the Oligocene epoch, when Earth's landscapes were dominated by early mammals and giant birds? Skeptics propose simpler explanations. Some argue the cube is a pyrite nodule deformed under pressure, though its geometric precision challenges this. Others suggest it's a mining artifact, perhaps a broken tool from a medieval or Renaissance-era operation, somehow lodged into younger coal layers. Yet historical records show no mining activity in Wolfsegg before the 19th century, and the cube's pure iron composition differs starkly from the slag-ridden iron of pre-industrial Europe. Alternative theories stretch the imagination. Could it be a relic of an advanced prehistoric culture, one that flourished and vanished without leaving other traces? Ancient astronaut enthusiasts point to similar iron objects described in Sanskrit texts, or the legendary Iron Pillar of Delhi, which resists rust through unknown means. More sober researchers float the possibility of a natural geofact, a rare convergence of geological processes that mimic human craftsmanship, like the famous Klerksdorp spheres. What makes the wolf's egg iron so compelling isn't just its defiance of timelines, it's the way it exposes the limits of our categories. Geology, archaeology, and metallurgy each offer fragments of explanation, but none fully account for its existence. Every scratch on its surface, every anomalous bubble in its structure, whispers the same unsettling question. How many other anomalies lie buried in Earth's strata, waiting to challenge the stories we tell ourselves about progress, time, and human ingenuity? Whether it's a messenger from the stars or a fingerprint of a lost epoch, this unassuming cube forces us to confront how little we truly know about the depths of our own planet's history. Among the dusty shelves of the Vatican's secret archives, a document known as the Tully Papyrus has fueled debates about ancient encounters with the unexplained. Originally bought in Egypt by former Vatican Museum director Alberto Tully in the 1930s, this fragmentary text, purportedly a copy of an 18th dynasty record from the reign of Thutmose III, describes a spectacle unlike anything in conventional Egyptology. According to translations, scribes witnessed circles of fire hovering in the sky, brighter than the sun, moving unpredictably before vanishing upstream. If genuine, this account could be one of the earliest documented UFO sightings in history. But the papyrus's murky origins and disputed authenticity make it a magnet for skepticism and fascination alike. The most compelling detail lies in the text's specificity. Unlike vague celestial omens common in Egyptian records, the description reads like a first-hand report. They were numerous and shone more than the sky. Their bodies were about 1 rod in width. The objects allegedly appeared over several days, terrifying onlookers until they ascended higher into the south. Skeptics argue the passage echoes known astronomical phenomena, perhaps a meteor shower or rare atmospheric optics. But proponents highlight the scribes' familiarity with such events. These were trained observers who meticulously recorded comets and eclipses elsewhere without similar alarm. Authenticity hangs on a web of contradictions. The original papyrus reportedly disintegrated after Tully's death, leaving only transcriptions by Italian scholars. Some Egyptologists, like Dr. Michael S. Heiser, dismiss it as a 20th century hoax, noting anachronistic phrasing and the lack of provenance. Others counter that the cursive hieratic script matches known 18th dynasty administrative documents, and the account aligns with global sky disk myths. From China's flying pearls to the Vimanas of Hindu texts, cultures worldwide describe luminous aerial objects with eerie consistency. Perhaps the most striking parallel comes from Thutmose III's own era. A series of enigmatic carvings at the Temple of Seti I in Abydos depict sleek, winged shapes resembling modern aircraft, dubbed the Abydos helicopters by fringe researchers. Mainstream scholars attribute these to palimpsest effects, where overlapping hieroglyphs create accidental modern imagery. But when viewed alongside the Tully Papyrus, they invite uncomfortable questions. Were the Egyptians documenting technology beyond our understanding, or simply interpreting natural wonders through a mythological lens? The Tully Papyrus doesn't just challenge our view of ancient skies, it exposes how history filters the extraordinary. Whether a genuine record or clever forgery, its persistence in popular culture reflects a deeper hunger to know if humanity has always been watched and if the truth might still be hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right key to decode it. High on the desolate slopes of Mount Baigong in western China, a network of rust-colored iron pipes snakes through solid rock, some protruding like ancient plumbing, others buried deep beneath a pyramid-shaped structure locals call the Alien Citadel. Discovered in the late 1990s by geologists surveying the remote Qinghai province, these so-called Baigong pipes have sparked fierce debate. Are they the remnants of a lost industrial civilization, or just an elaborate geological fluke playing tricks on our pattern-seeking minds? The pipe's unnatural appearance immediately stands out. Arranged in precise lines that vanish into the mountain, Their diameters range from needle-thin to over a foot wide, with right-angled joints that mirror modern piping systems. Laboratory tests confirm they're composed of iron with an unusually high silicon dioxide content, 30%, far higher than typical iron deposits. Some samples even contain traces of rare earth elements like neodymium, hinting at sophisticated metallurgy. The most unsettling detail, radiocarbon dating of organic material in nearby sediment, suggests the pipes could be upwards of 150,000 years old, a time when Homo sapiens were barely emerging in Africa. Mainstream geologists propose a natural explanation. Iron-rich magma might have filled fissures in the rock, hardening into pipe-like formations over eons. Similar tubular concretions exist worldwide, like Utah's famous sandstone pipes. Yet critics highlight inconsistencies: the Bagong pipe's uniformity, their clustered distribution, and the presence of what appear to be mechanical fittings. One section even branches into a perfect wide junction, a feature almost never seen in natural mineral formations. Local legends add fuel to the mystery. Tibetan herders speak of a sky people who built metallic structures in the mountains long ago, while ancient Chinese texts reference the engineering feats of the Changguo, a mythical pre-flood civilization. More tantalizing are reports of a saltwater lake near the site, where sonar scans allegedly revealed submerged pipe networks stretching for miles, though these claims remain unverified by independent researchers. Alternative theories range from the speculative to the sensational. Could this be evidence of an advanced prehistoric culture, one that mastered metallurgy before being obliterated by climate shifts? Others point to the region's high magnetic anomalies, wondering if the pipes served some energy-related purpose. The wildest hypothesis suggests extraterrestrial involvement, citing Mount Bagong's remote location and the pipe's resemblance to coolant systems in modern spacecraft. Science struggles to reconcile these contradictions. While some pipes do show dendritic patterns consistent with natural mineralization, others display weld-like seams and internal layering resembling industrial casting. The debate echoes the wider tension in archaeology: how to interpret anomalies that defy conventional timelines without veering into pseudoscience. Whether proof of forgotten ingenuity or a quirk of geology, the Bagong pipes force us to confront how little we know about Earth's deeper past. Every corroded joint, every strange alloy ratio whispers the same humbling truth: our planet's history might be far stranger and far less settled than our textbooks dare to admit. Among the treasures of Colombia's Quimbaya civilization, a set of golden figurines stands out not for their precious metal, but for their uncanny resemblance to modern aircraft. Crafted between 1,000 and 500 years ago, these so-called Quimbaya artifacts depict sleek, winged objects with stabilizers, fuselages, and even what appear to be cockpits, features impossible to dismiss as mere coincidence when placed side by side with 20th century jet designs. To some, they're smoking gun evidence of ancient aviation knowledge. To others, they're exquisite examples of stylized animal forms, their aeronautical likeness nothing more than pareidolia, our brain's tendency to see familiar shapes in abstract art. The aviation interpretation gains traction when examined through an engineer's lens. Figurines like the famous Ptolemy jet exhibit delta-wing profiles nearly identical to supersonic aircraft, with raised tail fins perfectly positioned to prevent stall. When scaled up and tested in wind tunnels by aerodynamics experts in the 1990s, some models demonstrated remarkable stability in flight, generating lift with minimal drag. Even more compelling are the subtle details. Some artifacts feature vertical stabilizers, a feature absent in nature but critical for controlled flight, and segmented bodies that mirror the fuselage wing distinctions of modern planes. Skeptics counter with zoological comparisons. Many Quimbaya pieces resemble local fauna like flying fish or birds, their elongated bodies and swept-back wings evolving for aquatic or aerial speed. The cockpits might be stylized heads, while the landing gear could represent fins or legs. Anthropologists point to other pre-Columbian art, where artistic conventions often exaggerated features for symbolic purposes, a serpent's curves becoming geometric, or a jaguar's limbs stretching into impossible angles. Yet the debate takes a fascinating turn when examining cultural context. The Quimbaya were master goldsmiths, creating thousands of pieces with startling precision. Why would they meticulously craft aerodynamic shapes if not observing something flight-worthy? Some researchers propose middle ground theories. Perhaps the figurines merge animal and shamanic imagery, representing spiritual flight during rituals. Psychedelic plants used in Quimbaya ceremonies could have inspired visions of winged vehicles, later immortalized in metal. The truth might lie beyond our current frameworks. Whether the Quimbaya artifacts depict lost technology, artistic symbolism, or something in between, they challenge our assumptions about ancient innovation. Every curve in that gold foil whispers a tantalizing thought that human creativity, whether interpreting nature or inventing machines, has always reached for the skies. Off the coast of Japan's Yonaguni Island lies one of the ocean's most tantalizing enigmas, a sprawling, tiered structure of sharp angles and flat platforms submerged beneath 60 feet of crystal-clear water. Discovered by diver Kihachiro Aratake in 1986, the Yonaguni Monument stretches nearly 500 feet long, its sandstone blocks forming what looks like terraces, staircases, and even a massive archway straight out of an ancient city. The question that's haunted researchers ever since: is this the handiwork of nature's patient erosion, or the drowned ruins of a civilization swallowed by the sea? The case for human construction hinges on the monument's uncanny symmetry. Walls meet at near-perfect 90-degree angles, while twin megaliths, dubbed the Turtle and the Stage, show flat surfaces and stepped edges that mirror ritual platforms found in Okinawan ruins. Marine geologist Dr. Masaki Kimura, who studied the site for decades, points to tool marks and carvings resembling Kaida script, an ancient writing system used in the region. Most compelling are the pillars, cylindrical stones that look deliberately placed, and a relief some interpret as a human face, its features weathered but unmistakable. Kimura even claims to have identified a sunken stadium, roads, and a castle nearby, suggesting an entire submerged city dating back at least 5,000 years, a potential link to the legendary lost continent of Mu. Yet skeptics like geologist Robert Schoch argue the monument is a textbook example of sandstone's natural fracturing. The area sits in an earthquake-prone zone where seismic activity can split rock along straight plains, creating the illusion of carved architecture. Ocean currents, too, have sculpted the underwater landscape for millennia, wearing softer stone into stair-like formations. The so-called face could be pareidolia, our brains imposing familiar shapes on random patterns, while the script might be scratches from coral or marine life. Even the site's depth complicates the human origin theory. Sea levels here rose gradually over the last 10,000 years, meaning any builders would have had to predate known advanced cultures in the region by millennia. The debate takes a fascinating turn when you examine regional folklore. Ryukyuan legends speak of gods who submerged entire kingdoms beneath the waves as punishment, while old fishermen's maps mark these waters as the place where land sank. Nearby, divers have found underwater stone circles and tools, though none conclusively tied to the monument itself. Then there's the climate clue. During the last ice age, Yonaguni was part of a vast land bridge connecting Taiwan and Japan. Could an unknown culture have thrived here, only to vanish beneath rising seas? Modern technology hasn't settled the argument. Sonar scans reveal the monument's base extends into deeper, unexplored terrain, while sediment analysis shows layers consistent with both natural deposition and possible human disturbance. What's needed is an excavation, but the site's fragile sandstone crumbles at the touch, leaving researchers reluctant to disturb it without conclusive proof of artificiality. Whether a quirk of geology or a relic of prehistory, the Yonaguni Monument forces us to confront how little we know about humanity's coastal past. If it's natural, it's one of Earth's most breathtaking illusions. If artificial, it's a time capsule from a civilization lost to the tides, a silent, submerged sentinel guarding secrets we may never fully unravel. Every dive to its shadowy platforms doesn't just explore rock. It probes the boundary between myth and memory, where the weight of water has preserved a riddle written in stone. Deep in the highlands of Bolivia, near the shores of Lake Titicaca, a farmer stumbled upon an artifact that would ignite one of archaeology's most perplexing cross-continental mysteries, the Fuente Magna Bowl. This large, shallow stone vessel, carved with intricate zoomorphic designs, might have been dismissed as just another pre-Columbian relic if not for one staggering detail. Its interior is inscribed with Sumerian cuneiform, a writing system used in ancient Mesopotamia over 4,000 years ago. How did a script from the cradle of civilization end up etched into a bowl buried halfway across the world, thousands of years before Europeans set foot in the Americas? The inscriptions themselves are what make the bowl so controversial. Epigrapher Dr. Clyde Winters identified the symbols as Proto-Sumerian, a precursor to the fully developed cuneiform of Mesopotamia around 3000 BC. Translations suggest ritualistic or dedicatory text, possibly linked to a goddess worshipped in early Sumerian culture, raising the possibility of cultural exchange on a scale never before documented. The bowl's design only deepens the intrigue. Its outer carvings depict local Andean fauna like frogs and serpents, blending seamlessly with the ancient Near Eastern script inside, as if two worlds collided in a single artifact. Skeptics argue the inscriptions are either coincidental grooves or modern forgeries, pointing to the lack of similar finds in the region. Yet metallurgical analysis reveals patina, and where patterns consistent with millennia of aging, and the script's grammatical structure aligns with known Proto-Sumerian syntax, details unlikely to be faked by a 20th century hoaxer unfamiliar with such niche linguistic nuances. Even more compelling are the chemical traces found in the stone, which match quarries near Lake Titicaca, confirming the bowl's local origin despite its foreign markings. Theories about how it got there stretch from the plausible to the fantastical. Some scholars propose transoceanic contact, suggesting Sumerian sailors or Phoenician traders known for their seafaring prowess might have reached South America, leaving behind cultural fragments. Others point to the work of Thor Heyerdahl, whose Kon-Tiki expedition proved ancient rafts could cross the Pacific. But the most radical theory involves a shared ancestral culture, a now-vanished civilization that spread its influence across both continents before recorded history, leaving behind linguistic breadcrumbs like the Fuente Magna Bowl. Local legends add another layer. The Aymara people speak of Viracocha, a bearded outsider who brought knowledge from across the sea, while Sumerian tablets describe distant lands rich in metals, echoes of the Andes' mineral wealth. Could these stories preserve fragmented memories of real encounters? What makes the Fuente Magna Bowl so unsettling isn't just the script it bears, but the questions it forces us to ask about connectivity in the ancient world. Every line of cuneiform is a silent challenge to our assumptions, a reminder that the past might have been far more intertwined than we ever imagined. Whether proof of forgotten voyages or a relic of a global culture now lost to time, this humble bowl doesn't just bridge continents, it bridges our understanding of human history itself. In a quiet field near the French village of Glozal in 1924, a farmer named Emile Fradin stumbled upon a discovery that would ignite a firestorm in the archaeological world. A buried chamber filled with strange clay tablets, carved bone fragments, and peculiar ceramic idols, all inscribed with symbols unlike anything seen before. Dubbed the Glozal tablets, these artifacts bore a mix of geometric markings and stylized figures, some resembling letters from ancient alphabets, others utterly alien. But what should have been a celebrated find quickly became archaeology's most contentious battleground, pitting respected scholars against each other in a debate that still simmers today. Were these the remnants of a lost Neolithic script or an elaborate hoax designed to fool the experts? The controversy began with the tablets' dating. Early examinations suggested they were astonishingly old. Some researchers claimed the artifacts belonged to a period around 12,000 BC, predating known writing systems by millennia. This would have rewritten the history of human communication, implying that Europe's prehistoric hunter-gatherers possessed a form of writing long before the Sumerians or Egyptians. But skeptics pointed to glaring inconsistencies. The symbols on the tablets didn't match any known ancient scripts, yet they displayed a uniformity that seemed too polished for a culture supposedly experimenting with early notation. Then came the bombshell. Forensic analysis of the clay revealed traces of modern tools and dyes, while a few of the tablets bore symbols eerily similar to characters from medieval alchemical manuscripts, details impossible to explain if the artifacts were genuinely ancient. The accusations of forgery were swift and brutal. Leading archaeologists, including the esteemed Salomon Reinach, initially championed the tablet's authenticity, only to backpedal when handwriting analysis suggested the inscriptions were too fresh, the strokes too deliberate. Fradin, the farmer who discovered them, became a lightning rod for suspicion. Critics alleged he'd fabricated the relics to capitalize on the early 20th century obsession with occult antiquities, pointing to his family's sudden financial improvements and the convenient timing of each new discovery whenever media attention waned. Yet Fradin maintained his innocence until his death, and some defenders noted anomalies that didn't fit the forgery narrative. A handful of tablets, when subjected to thermoluminescence dating in the 1970s, returned mixed results. Some were modern, but others showed age signatures stretching back to the Iron Age. The most intriguing twist: a handful of the symbols on the glosal tablets bear uncanny resemblances to scripts found nowhere near France. A few match characters from the Vinca symbols of ancient Serbia, while others echo markings on artifacts from the mysterious Tartaria tablets of Romania. Could these scattered parallels hint at a wider, forgotten system of prehistoric communication, or are they just red herrings in a masterful deception? Even the location of the discovery raises questions. The burial chamber's construction lacked the usual signs of Neolithic or Iron Age engineering, yet it wasn't a haphazard modern pit either. What lingers isn't just doubt about the tablet's origins, but a deeper uncertainty about how we distinguish truth from fraud in archaeology. The glosal affair exposed the biases and rivalries within the academic world, where reputations were staked and sometimes shattered on competing interpretations. For every expert who swore the tablets were fake, another argued that their very strangeness made them genuine. After all, history is full of artifacts once dismissed as hoaxes, only to be vindicated by later technology. Whether a Neolithic secret or an elaborate ruse, the glosal tablets serve as a cautionary tale. They remind us that the past doesn't always conform to our expectations, and that sometimes the most baffling relics are the ones that force us to question not just their authenticity, but our own readiness to believe or to dismiss the impossible. Every scratch on those contested surfaces is more than a symbol. It's a challenge to the stories we tell about human ingenuity and the lengths we'll go to defend them. Beneath the sun-baked soil of southern Iraq, archaeologists uncovered something that defies simple explanation: a collection of 7,000-year-old clay figurines depicting creatures with elongated heads, almond-shaped eyes, and distinctly reptilian features. These Ubaid lizardmen, as they've come to be known, are the handiwork of the Ubaid culture, a civilization that thrived long before the rise of Sumer. Their poses are eerily human. Some cradle infants, others clasp their hands as if in prayer, but their slit-eyed faces and scaly bodies suggest something far older, far stranger. Were these mere symbolic art, or could they hint at encounters with beings outside our conventional understanding of history? The details unsettle even seasoned researchers. The figurines' exaggerated shoulders taper into narrow waists, a physique unlike any human anatomy, while their postures, often with one hand resting on the hip, exude an unnerving confidence. Some wear helmets adorned with what appear to be crests or antennae, while others grip staffs or tools as if frozen mid-ritual. The craftsmanship is deliberate, the features too consistent to dismiss as artistic whim. Even more striking is their context. These figures weren't hidden away but placed prominently in domestic settings, suggesting they held deep cultural significance for the Ubaid people. One prevailing theory ties the lizardmen to creation myths. Across Mesopotamia, serpentine deities like the Sumerian Ningishzid are often depicted as a hybrid of man and serpent, symbolized fertility, healing, and the underworld. The Ubaid figurines might represent early incarnations of these beliefs, physical manifestations of a primordial connection between humans and reptilian forces of nature. In nearby Eridu, considered the world's first city, temples were built atop layers of older shrines, each dedicated to water gods associated with serpents. Could the lizardmen be ancestors of these deities, their forms preserved in clay as intermediaries between the human and divine? Yet another angle veers into speculative territory. Ancient astronaut theorists point to the figurines' uncanny resemblance to modern descriptions of reptilian aliens, raising uncomfortable questions. Could these artifacts document encounters with an unknown species, or even genetic experimentation by advanced beings? The Ubaid culture emerged during a period of sudden agricultural advancement, with irrigation systems and social structures appearing seemingly overnight. Proponents of this view argue such leaps align with the idea of external influence, though mainstream archaeology dismisses this as pseudoscience, citing the lack of concrete evidence beyond stylized artwork. Skeptics offer more grounded interpretations. The figurines might symbolize shamanic transformation, representing priests wearing ritual costumes to channel reptilian spirits. Indigenous cultures worldwide, from the Nagas of Hindu tradition to the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl of Mesoamerica, blend human and animal traits to embody spiritual concepts. Alternatively, the Ubaid lizardmen could be symbolic warnings, representations of disease or decay, with their scaled skins evoking the ravages of leprosy or other ailments. What makes these relics so haunting isn't just their appearance, it's the silence surrounding them. The Ubaid left no written records, only these cryptic figurines staring back across millennia with eyes that seem to hold secrets we'll never decipher. Whether deities, symbols, or something more inexplicable, they challenge our assumptions about the boundaries between myth and memory. Every carefully sculpted scale whispers the same tantalizing question: how much of prehistory remains hidden in plain sight, waiting for us to see it not as fantasy, but as a fragment of a story we've yet to fully understand? Buried beneath layers of volcanic ash near Toluca, Mexico, a terracotta artifact emerged in 1933 that would send shockwaves through the archaeological world, the Tekaxitlahuaca head. This small, bearded figurine, with its distinctively Roman features and Hellenistic hairstyle, looked like it belonged in a Mediterranean museum, not a pre-Columbian dig site dated between 900 and 1250 CE. Discovered by archaeologist Jose Garcia Payon beneath an undisturbed temple floor, the head immediately sparked a firestorm. Was this definitive proof of ancient Roman voyages to the Americas, a medieval hoax, or something even stranger? The arguments for authenticity hinge on context and composition. The head was found in a ceremonial complex linked to the Matlatzinca culture, encased in sediment layers showing no signs of disturbance. Thermoluminescence testing in the 1990s dated the terracotta to around 2,000 years old, placing its creation squarely in the Roman Empire's heyday. Stylistically, the piece is a dead ringer for 2nd century Roman art, from the delicately carved curls resembling those of Emperor Marcus Aurelius to the sharp, aquiline nose typical of Hellenistic portraiture. Even the material tells a story. Local clay analysis confirms the terracotta was fired using indigenous techniques, suggesting the artist, whether Roman or Mesoamerican, worked with materials at hand. Skeptics, however, cry foul. They point to the head's isolation. No other Roman artifacts were found nearby, and the possibility of contamination during earlier, unrecorded digs. Some speculate it could be a colonial-era curio, perhaps a trinket brought by Spanish conquistadors that later tumbled into older strata, yet this theory falters under scrutiny. The head's patina and mineral deposits match undisturbed burial conditions, and Spanish artifacts from the period show entirely different artistic conventions. The most tantalizing theory, that the head arrived via a shipwrecked Roman vessel, swept across the Atlantic by currents like the Gulf Stream, experimental voyages like the replica Phoenician ship that sailed from Tunisia to the Caribbean in 2010, prove such crossings were technically possible. Ancient Roman texts even hint at distant lands beyond the ocean. Could the Takaxic Calixtlahuaca head be a physical remnant of these lost exploratory threads? Alternatively, the answer might lie in convergent artistry. Indigenous cultures worldwide independently developed similar sculptural techniques. Could the head's Roman features simply reflect universal human expressions carved by hands that had never seen a Mediterranean bust? The truth remains as enigmatic as the artifact itself. Whether proof of transoceanic contact or a rogue relic-defying explanation, this unassuming terracotta head forces us to confront how interconnected or unexpectedly parallel ancient civilizations might have been. Every chip in its weathered surface whispers of journeys we're only beginning to imagine. Buried in the sands of Pakistan's Indus Valley, the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro hold a mystery that has puzzled archaeologists for decades. Entire sections of the ancient city's stone structures fused into glass as if scorched by unimaginable heat. This phenomenon, known as vitrification, turns solid rock into a smooth, glossy substance resembling obsidian. Normally, such transformations require temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Celsius, far beyond what ordinary fires or even traditional kilns could achieve. So what force, natural or man-made, could have unleashed such intense energy on a Bronze Age metropolis over 4,000 years ago? One of the most debated theories points to ancient warfare. Could Mohenjo-Daro have been the target of a weapon so advanced it's been lost to history? References in early Hindu texts like the Mahabharata describe terrifying battles with blazing missiles and iron thunderbolts that reduced cities to ash, descriptions some interpret as allegories for nuclear warfare. Skeptics dismiss this as poetic exaggeration, but the vitrified stones add a haunting layer of plausibility. Laboratory tests confirm the fused layers contain traces of uranium and other rare elements, though critics argue these could stem from natural mineral deposits or later contamination. Then there's the cosmic explanation. Around 1920, researchers first proposed that a meteor or comet airburst similar to the Tunguska event in Siberia might have superheated the city in an instant. The Indus Valley sits along a known meteorite impact corridor, and vitrification has been documented at other impact sites worldwide. Yet Mohenjo-Daro lacks the telltale crater or shocked quartz typically left by such events. Could a near-miss explosion in the atmosphere have delivered the heat without leaving a crater? Recent simulations suggest it's possible, but without definitive debris evidence, the theory remains speculative. Industrial accidents offer a more grounded, though no less fascinating, possibility. Mohenjo-Daro was a technological marvel of its time, with advanced drainage systems and massive brick-lined public baths. Some scholars propose that a catastrophic failure in large-scale metal smelting or pottery kilns could have triggered an inferno hot enough to vitrify nearby stone. The city's layout supports this vitrified zones cluster near what might have been industrial districts. But here's the catch: no furnaces or slag piles found at the site could generate such extreme heat consistently. Unless they were using methods we've yet to uncover. Perhaps the most unsettling detail lies in the human remains scattered through the ruins. Skeletons contorted in unnatural poses, some with radiation-like burns, others clustered in groups as if frozen mid-flight. Early excavators dubbed it the massacre stratum, but modern forensics suggests these deaths weren't violent. Instead, they mirror victims of sudden, extreme thermal exposure, like Pompeii but with heat rather than ash. What makes Mohenjo-Daro's vitrified ruins so compelling isn't just the unanswered questions, it's the unsettling parallels to modern fears. In a world where nuclear proliferation and climate change loom large, these ancient stones serve as a silent warning. Whether scarred by war, cosmic violence, or technological hubris, they remind us that civilizations rise and fall, often leaving behind clues we're still struggling to decode. Every glossy, fused surface is a testament to the fragility of human achievement and the enduring power of nature's fury. From the Antikythera Mechanism's celestial precision to the vitrified ruins of Mohenjo-Daro, these 30 relics aren't just curiosities, they're cracks in the foundation of history, each one prying open questions we thought were settled. Think about it: a Viking coin buried in Maine, a Roman head in Mexico, battery-like devices millennia before electricity. These aren't random anomalies, they're pieces of a puzzle suggesting human innovation didn't follow a straight line. Perhaps knowledge rose and fell in waves, with civilizations reaching heights we've yet to fully uncover, only to vanish beneath the sands of time or the weight of catastrophe. What binds these mysteries together isn't just their strangeness, it's the way they expose the limits of our assumptions. For every artifact dismissed as a hoax, there's another defying easy explanation, like the Baghdad Battery's acidic residue or the Saqqara Bird's aerodynamic curves. Even the controversies tell a story. The fierce debates over the Kensington runestone or the Glozal tablets reveal how desperately we cling to tidy narratives, only for the past to laugh at our certainty. This isn't about proving aliens or lost super-civilizations, it's about humility. The Dropa Stones and Bagong pipes remind us that Earth's history might be far richer than our textbooks allow. Maybe the Quimbaya artifacts really are stylized birds, or maybe they're evidence that ancient minds glimpsed principles we think we invented. The truth is, every time we dig, we're forced to redraw the map of human ingenuity. So where does that leave us? Curious, because these relics aren't just relics, they're invitations. An invitation to question, to dig deeper, to wonder what else might be waiting in museum basements or buried beneath deserts. An invitation to look at history not as a locked door but as one with countless keys, each artifact offering a new way in. Now it's your turn. Which of these enigmas keeps you up at night? The Nazca Lines' celestial alignments, the Ica Stone's impossible surgeries. Drop your favorites in the comments. Let's keep the conversation alive. And if this journey through the unexplained has left you hungry for more, remember, history's greatest secret might still be lying in plain sight, just waiting for someone to look at it sideways. The past isn't done surprising us yet.